welcome to the Investor Talk Show, where we unpack the story shaping South Africa's property future. And today we're diving into a landmark announcement that sparked serious excitement across the investment community: Growthpoint's partnership with RSA Aero to develop the Cape Winelands Airport just outside Cape Town. It's been called one of the most significant private aviation and logistics infrastructure project in South Africa's history, a development that is set to redefine connectivity, unlock regional growth, and catalyze new property opportunities across the Western Cape. And joining me to unpack what this means for the province, the property sector, and investors, and watching the story unfold is Nic Ferguson. He's the Managing Director of RSA Aero and the visionary driving this project on the ground. Nic, welcome to the Investor Talk Show. Great to have you with us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Neil.
No, great. So Nic, just take us back to the beginning. What's the vision behind the Cape Winelands Airport, and how did the partnership with Growthpoint come about?
So the vision, like everything in life, visions change. They are fluid things. What you start out is not what you end. We bought this airport in 2020. It was an old military airport, four, sort of rundown runways, all in different directions. And we started unpacking the opportunity. We realized that we needed longer runways to land bigger planes. We started going from a GA airport into a domestic airline airport. We needed a 2,200 meter runway, so we bought further land. And then we came across this, very unique option where if we are a closer destination alternate and we can service bigger airplanes, we save the airline industry in the region of about R1 billion a year. And that required us to build a longer runway. So what started out as a small GA hub has evolved into a fully fledged second airport for Cape Town. In terms of our partnership with Growthpoint, we've been speaking to Growthpoint now for this process has taken more than a year. We realized, I see you've got behind you the picture of the V&A waterfront. Growthpoint are not only the biggest property owner, property REIT in the country, but with decades of experience, but also resonated with us, personally. Their management, their style, the way they do business. We thought that they were absolutely the right partner for us, and we're grateful when we concluded that partnership agreement.
Excellent. So, why here and why now? What makes the northern corridor of Cape Town the right location and also timing for such a major aviation investment?
So the location of an airport is obviously a key thing. What you firstly need to do is you can't be too far away from the city. So I'm just going to run down what airports need. They can't be too far away from the city. 40-minute drive is a reasonable time. They can't be, if it's a second airport, they can't be too close to the first airport. So you obviously got to take that out of the equation. You can't build one in the Cape Flats because there already is one there. They have to be on flat land, so you've got to look at flat land, and you've got to have flat land that's in the direction of the wind. Your question was why the northern corridor of Cape Town?
Yes, correct.
What made that the right location?
Yes,
timing such a major aviation investment.
correct.
So the
Yes,
right location is around a number of factors. One is the distance from the driving distance. If you're too far away, no one's going to go to you. The second one is you can't be too close to an existing airport. You've got to be outside of their airspace. So obviously you can't build a second airport on the Cape Flats. The third one is you need flat land, at least 3.5 to 4 kilometers of flat land that is in the direction of the wind. And you need to control that land. So obviously you've got to look for spaces that, you've got to acquire that land. And that in itself is a process. In the case of Cape Town, you have to be away from the Coburg nuclear power station because there's an exclusion zone there. You also have to be away from mountains, so you can acquire flat land, but if there's a mountain directly in front of you, that's not going to help either. So you've got to have, flat land, relatively flat land on either side, and we're talking about 30 kilometers, generally about 30 kilometers away from mountains. Also nature reserves, so they limit you. You're not allowed to be flying directly over nature reserves. So all of those aspects are very key in terms of where it can be. We're fortunate that we're in the city of Cape Town. We are on the boundary of the urban edge. Within the urban edge, we're away from built-up areas. And we did a LiDAR survey, which basically mapped out all those constraints that I mentioned earlier on, and basically said there is no other site in Cape Town for a second airport in the city of Cape Town's metropole. Also, fundamentally, we are an existing airport. So this airport has been around for more than 80 years. It is, we are expanding an existing airport, and I think that is also key in the factor. We're not taking a complete greenfield site and starting to relocate it. Why is this why is the timing good? The timing good is good because currently Cape Town International Airport's at capacity. That is the reason for them doing their new runway realignment. And they had capacity at peak times. And obviously this whole alternate destination airport aspect came, we uncovered, which isn't related to the timing now. This is a problem that's existed for a long time, but it's only been uncovered now. And realistically, the timing is good. Cape Town is we like to say that we're in the growth region of the growth region of the growth region. South Africa is the growth, of Africa. Western Cape is the growth of South Africa. Cape Town is the growth of the Western Cape, and we're in the northern suburbs, and that is the growth area. I liken it also to Midrand, what Midrand used to be 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, even if you compare like the Lanseria versus OR Tambo kind of scenario as well, very similar.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. So let's talk about from airfield to 450 hectare presec, because that's, it's a transformation from Santa Cruz airfield to a 450 hectare mixed use aviation estate. It's huge. What will the development include in the first phases?
So our entire site is 900 hectares. So the existing airport, which is 155 hectares, was Zone Transport 1. We are rezoning a further 300 hectares to make up the 450 that you're talking about. What will be in that is obviously the runway, the taxiways, the aprons for parking aeroplanes, and a small terminal building in phase 1. And everything outside of that will be demand driven. And by demand driven, we will have tenants. So obviously you will have the facilities that need to service the airport, like fuel, cargo, those sort of aspects will come up in phase 1. But things like hotels and GA hangars and fixed-based operators, those are demand driven. And we've been accumulating queries and requests for spaces over the last few years, and are applying for 350,000 square meters of bulk or building space, call it. And we have the demand to take up that space. So together with Growthpoint, we're curating, who are the best tenants for us in terms of our tenant mix, but also making sure that we incorporate a broad mixture of tenants, and we don't focus on one type and leave another one out.
Okay, so I think if you look at Growthpoint, I mean, let's look a little bit at their role. I mean, they bring scale, governance. I mean, a sustainability track record. I mean, you look at landmark projects like behind me, the V&A waterfront. So what specific value are they adding to this particular partnership?
So we've reached an agreement with them on a couple of aspects in our project. So first is we've divided our project into various precincts. So we've got an airside precinct and a services precinct, which predominantly we will independently run, but they will be involved in it. The primary precincts that they will be involved in is the terminal precinct and the general aviation precinct. What they will help do in those precincts is convert the tenants and the leads that we have generated and that they generate into signed leases, and they will help with in certain buildings with the property development. So they will do the property management, the property development. They will also perform an asset management role, which is effectively looking at the market value of the entire precinct and looking for opportunities to increase the value of the asset and look at reducing, raising debt and also reducing our net assets. So our net assets are our assets minus our liabilities. So they involved in improving the asset base, but also how we manage our debt structure. They are also playing an oversight role. We have reached a joint development agreement with another key partner of ours, which is WBHO, the listed construction company, and they will play an oversight role on the joint development agreement and on the EPC contract with WBHO.
Okay, so the project aims to become the world's greenest airport. I mean, that's quite a bold statement. I mean, how are sustainability and innovation, how are you going to embed that from the ground up?
So I know to say that we want to be the world's greenest airport is quite audacious and quite like, people say, everyone says that type of thing. But realistically, so what we will do is obviously look inwardly at everything we do. We will procure, energy from renewable sources, either close to us or have our own on site. We will store all our stormwater on site. We will polish and clean our water. We'll look inwardly at everything we do, but we also have a massive outward impact on the environment, insofar as that we save the airlines from day one, in today's terms, based on today's number of flights, 22 million liters of fuel per annum. And that 22 million liters of burnt fuel that has gone into the atmosphere has created 60 million kilograms of carbon emissions. So if we build this airport and we don't have one flight landing at us, we have saved the environment 60 million kilograms of carbon emissions. And that's why we can be the greenest airport. We look inwardly, but we also have this massive outward impact.
Excellent. So, Nic, I mean, are there any global airports or developments that inspired your design or your environmental approach specifically for Cape Winelands Airport?
So, a key airport that I like and I think has got a lot of unique characteristics and correlates well to us is Western Sydney Airport. It's a new airport built in Sydney to complement the main airport. It's also a 3.5-kilometer runway. We've been following that project, since its inception. It's about to go live soon, and that is for me is one of the airports that I could look up to and say they have done an excellent job.
Fantastic. Yeah, okay. So let's unpack a little bit the economic and social impact. I mean, we've seen this 8 billion investment. I mean, is projected to create 35,000 direct and indirect jobs initially. I mean, how will this project tangibly boost local communities and the regional economy?
Tangibly is realistically, there's a high unemployment factor around our airport. There's tangible thing directly for the people that live around us is a job. That's how it's going to boost local economy. What it's also going to do, it's going to help attract new airlines to fly into the city of Cape Town on new routes that didn't exist, where there's slot constraints at Cape Town and where they cannot get access. So we're also looking at the regional economy. So we're looking at flights around Africa. So realistically, Cape Town doesn't have natural resources other than its, natural beauty. Realistically, we rely on tourism to keep us going, and this is going to be a key driver of tourism into this area. It's an 8 to 10 billion rand project. Realistically, what it will also do is, by airlines not having to carry that extra fuel, which in 2019 equated to 110 million kilograms of fuel, or 110,000 tons of fuel carried unnecessarily. If you take that fuel out of the equation, call it dead weight, and you now allow those airlines to carry cargo instead of fuel, effectively what you're doing is you're upping the supply side of the entire aviation cargo into South Africa by 25%. Currently, South Africa is doing about 400,000 tons of cargo, mainly 90% of it's done in OR Tambo, probably 5 or 6% in Cape Town, and the balance in Durban. Realistically, what it would do is it would change that ratio of Johannesburg to Cape Town to a more balanced ratio of approximately a quarter of the cargo, air cargo coming into Cape Town, where it's currently at 5%, it will go to 25%. That is, and the ripple effects of that additional cargo space on the logistics industry is massive.
Yeah, they're big. So, I mean, we talk about big projects face big challenges normally. I mean, we talk from environmental approvals to financing, also infrastructure delivery. So, Nic, what are the key hurdles that you see, and how are you addressing them?
So obviously big projects face big challenges, and we up for big challenges. We've got a strong team around us. Guys like Dion Clutie, who it's their third time they're doing an environmental impact assessment for a new runway. So Dion did King Shaka, he did the runway realignment at Cape Town International, and now he's the managing director of Cape Winelands Airport. And hopefully will be the third time that we get this, or that he gets it right. It will be my first time. Obviously, a key hurdle currently, is the environmental impact assessment, which is on which a decision is due imminently. We're talking about the next week, and assuming that is positive, we also have a town planning application in, and those two aspects are key things we need. Then we, on top of that, we need to extend the licensing of the airport. Currently, we are Category 1 licensed airport. We'll go up to Category 9, and that's mainly around firefighting and rescue. And it's the South African Civil Association looks at, it's not a tick box exercise, but it's more about, how high is your fence? Is it a safe environment for airlines? The subjective one is an international license, which we made an application coming up for a year ago, and it's something that we need to push. So I think that is a key thing, the international license.
Okay, good. So given current construction costs, interest rates, how do you ensure long-term financial sustainability and I think more importantly, investor confidence in the rollout of this project?
Well, this is a long-term infrastructure project. Once there's not space for a third airport, so realistically, we will, as Cape Town grows, we will benefit as Cape Town grows as a region, or as South Africa tourism grows as a region. Obviously, we will benefit. We are quite unique in that you can earn income, in a hard currency. So exchange rates, we are, call it a little bit insulated against exchange rate fluctuations. Obviously, interest rates are still high, but we believe that those will come down, and we've engaged with WBHO on this joint development agreement to unpack the construction costs such that the risk is not all transferred to the contractor on an EPC. Because if you can't unpack that risk, and that risk is, in terms of construction risk, can be unknowns. Obviously, when you building a project of this scale, there are unknowns that come in, and if the contractor doesn't know upfront about those unknowns, they price them in. So what we are doing is we are walking the walk with the contractor so that we unpack these unknowns and we are able to best secure the best construction cost for ourselves.
Okay, so Nic, just we've seen in international airports what is very important is accessibility, transport, getting people to and from airports, and we've seen most of the larger airports, I would say, all have access to rail, but easy access also via road. I mean, is there anything planned and let's use Gautrain as an example of what it's done for Tambo. I mean, is there anything on the radar in terms of, well, certainly there has to be planning in terms of vehicles and that kind of stuff, but is there anything on the horizon in terms, or on your radar in terms of either rail or either the accessibility to the airport?
So firstly, we're off the N1. We believe the N1 is a key national highway for us. We prefer it to the N2. There are new roads planned off the N1. There's a Localis extension which comes directly off the N1, which will come directly into our airport. There's also the R300, which is planned, the extension of the R300, which is a major road which will improve accessibility. We've also been in discussions and communications with Gautrain, who are looking at consulting to the Western Cape government on the setup of a Cape train. Gautrain is effectively the entity. Gautrain is a state-owned entity. It's a partnership between the government of Gauteng and national government, and they are looking at doing a similar thing. Well, they're not looking at doing, they're looking at consulting to the Western Cape government on how we can build a Cape train which will feed both airports. And that's a key aspect for us, is how it'll connect us to the waterfront. On top of that, we also are speaking to PRASA around more traditional rail facilities.
Excellent, great. So finally, Nic, I mean, let's look ahead 10 to 20 years. I mean, what is the legacy that you want Cape Winelands Airport to leave? I mean, both for the Western Cape and for South African infrastructure investment.
The legacy that I would see, I would want it to be a successful airport that's adding value to our surrounding communities and to South Africa as a whole. It's not about me. This is way more than one individual. This is a team effort. This is gonna outlast me, you, and pretty much everyone on this call, unless they're just born. Even if they're just born, it probably outlasts them too. So it's going to evolve and it's going to create its own life, and we're just grateful to be part of giving birth to it.
Fantastic. I mean, Nic, this is really an inspiring, ambitious story. I mean, not just for aviation, but I think also for South Africa's property and infrastructure future. Thank you very much for sharing your vision and also for leading a project that combines, I think, lots of innovation, sustainability, and impact at scale. So for those who like to follow this journey, explore partnership opportunities, visit capewinelandsairport.com or rei.co.za for the full feature and also interview highlights. This is Nic Ferguson. He's the CEO.
Cape Winelands.aero.
Okay, thank you for fixing that. Cape Winelands.aero. Okay, that's the URL that you need to reach out if you'd like to reach out for any partnership opportunities or get more information. Thanks very much, Nic. Great chatting to you.